All right, I'm really excited about this one. Today we have a 2025 Trek Madone SLR. And I have to be honest, I've been kind of critical of this bike in the past, so I want to know, did Trek really get it right with their latest version of the Madone? To find out, I sat down with a local rider who put some serious miles and watts into this bike to find out what he likes, what he doesn't like, and overall how this bike performs. This is Real Race Bikes, brought to you by Bespoke Endurance. This is a 2025 Trek Madone SLR. It features the SLR 900 carbon, a SRAM Rival Groupset, and he's rocking specialized Roval CL2 wheels and weighs 17.5 pounds. The crank length is 165 millimeters, and the rider's got the chain rings of 4835, and in the back he's got a 1033. Up at the top, he's got an RSL stem length of 100 millimeters. The Trek handlebars that are flared 40 and 37 millimeters. His saddle is a Sella Italia SLR 130 millimeter. For the hoops, he's got GP 5000s pumped up to 62 and 60 PSI. All right, so who are you, and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chris Schuele. I'm a road Cat 4 racer. Do gravel, crits, road racing, cross. Just enjoy riding my bike and racing wheels.
How long have you had this bike now? How did you get this bike? Because this is a sweet looking Madone.
Thanks. It's this exact bike here I got late April. One of my first rides on this exact bike here was actually King's crit racing. So that was a fun race to have on it. The original bike I got was actually in February. It was an SL model. And I had a couple small paint defects, and the local bike shop, Trek Fort Wright, they warranted the bike and got me a pretty awesome upgrade. So I'm pretty happy with it.
That is a massive upgrade. That's awesome.
Yeah.
An SL to an SLR. This bike looks pretty built up. How have you upgraded this bike, or have you made any upgrades to it?
Well, this was a frame-up build. Kind of started life as a stock kind of basic build using a SRAM Rival group set. Originally spec'd with a 1036 cassette out back. After a few rides, there's the 14 tooth cog there. There's a gap going from a 13 to 15. It was just a pretty big jump. So I upgraded that to a SRAM Red 1033. Makes it a nice one-step progression through the cassette there. Besides that, swapped out the saddle. Trying to find some more comfort, especially for those longer days and road races. Besides that, she's been rocking pretty good with no issues.
Now, I have noticed you've got the Roval CL2s on here. Yeah. So I know that's not coming stock with this. So how did you get those wheels with this bike?
Those were pulled over from a previous build. So last year, I was fortunate enough, I had a Specialized Tarmac SL7. That was a size 56. Purchased it used. Unfortunately, the steer tube was cut a little short for me, so the fit was super aggressive. Awesome race bike, but once you get to like 50 miles or so, you're back screaming a little bit. So decided to sell that at the end of the season, and that's what funded this build here.
I noticed that you have been on a Giant TCR.
Yep.
You've raced on a Tarmac SL7, and now you're racing on this. So how does this bike compare to other race bikes or other race bikes that you've been on?
So the closest to this Madone here is definitely that Tarmac SL7.
Okay.
The TCR was a little bit older technology, so I'll keep it out. It was great for its time. Super light bike, but the Tarmac and the Madone are in a different league, all their own there. This generation of Madone, they kind of went for that do-it-all bike. That's exactly what the Tarmac's kind of going for as well. So there's a lot of similarities between the two. They're both Aero. They hold their speed really well. Stiff, good in the sprint, and they're light. So that's the main similarities. Kind of the difference is this one here, the first time I got on it, you go on, try to do a sprint on a flat or anything like that, the rear wheel really tracks well. It holds its line, and you can feel the efficiency. It sounds, I know, a little maybe dumb there, but you really feel every power, every watt you put into the pedal is propelling you forward. And it's just such a stable bike, and it's great at descending as well. So I've really fallen in love with this bike here, and um, I wouldn't trade it for anything out there.
I've heard that the Madones are really stiff at the bottom bracket, and you can really feel that power transfer. Did that you? I know you talked about sprinting and the bike
Yep.
feeling planted. Do you feel that stiffness
Yeah.
as well? Or?
And like I said, the sprinting is where you really feel is the first time you get on. It's just a feeling of like, wow, this is everything's going to make you go forward. There's no noodling, there's no flex going on in the bottom bracket down there. It just feels great. And with their ISO speed in the back, it still retains a lot of its comfort. That's one thing I really like about this bike over the SL7 I had was it just has a little bit extra comfort to it, and it's a great bike.
How does it perform on the climbs? Is this being their all rounder? So the Madone kind of they went on a diet. A lot of people
Yeah,
say compared to their previous Gen 7 model. So how does this climb?
I love this bike climb. Climb is one of my favorite things to do. I love hitting all the little KOMs around here. Just any of the hills, testing yourself. It does what it's supposed to do. I really enjoy it. There's nothing I don't ever feel it's holding me back in any way.
Okay, so I am curious about the Isoflow because 2 generations ago they used to have the ISO speed, which was that
Mm-hmm.
slider adjustment. Then they brought out the Isoflow. I've kind of always jokingly called it the butthole of the bike, but how does it enhance performance or ride feel, or is it gimmicky?
When I first saw the design concept, I love the lines, but as far as the comfort aspect of it, that there were a lot of marketing stuff goes along with these bikes. I really wanted to try it out, and it was surprising. I came off an SL7. I know how that feels. It's a great riding bike. There's nothing against the SL7 or the SL8. This one here, you can feel it. I would assume it's measurable, but when you get on back to back, there you can feel it taking out, dampening some type of vibrations, or just providing some level of comfort that um, it's doing something. And I do, I believe it's doing what they're saying there.
The Madone was kind of the first to really bring in the Aero water bottle. I know some people get them, some don't. They've kind of been pretty divisive, maybe. I don't know if that's the word you use, but what's your experience been with them? Do you like them? Do we not like them? How do we feel about them?
There's a lot to unpack with Aero water bottles. So first, from a function standpoint, they do what they're supposed to do, and they make it slippery going through the air. They act as a fairing. A lot of tri bikes they do the same thing. They have fairing water bottles in the middle there, and they'll help you get down the road a little bit quicker. From an actual everyday usage, I don't use them, so they're difficult to fill up. The base is on a slant there, so you can't really set them flat on the counter to fill them up, and then they got a pretty small mouth hole up top. So it would take a little extra work to try to actually use them, clean them on a regular basis. Fortunately, with Trek, they do have their water bottles, but the cages themselves, they'll take a regular round bottle as well, no
Oh,
problem.
these cages will take a regular bottle.
Yeah, so you can go either way. So
Okay.
I can run these, or typically any of my races, especially when I'm going through a feed and I'm getting that stuff, I'm just running regular round water bottles there.
These are they look difficult to get out and in when you're racing and you're in that going at speed and handling those. Are they pretty easy to get in and out? They look kind of tricky.
If you practice with them, you'll get used to it. You get the feel. Um, I choose not to race with them. I would just rather use a round one. It's just a lot easier. If you had a round one, you don't even have to look. You can go down there, orient it however you need to. These here, they're not very symmetrical, so you have to like kind of position in your hand correctly, get the water bottle open, and put it back down there. So it's kind of a one way in, one way out.
Okay.
I'd rather have one less thing to think of.
So when this bike first came out, I personally was pretty critical of it. I feel like the trend right now is for a lot of brands to go into that all-rounder space. And my take was that they were really sacrificing a lot of their Aero, with the Madone being their Aero line. So I'm just kind of curious what your experience has been with it as far as racing it goes, and the claims of this bike, and just overall kind of how it performs in race scenarios.
It feels every bit as fast as the SL7. When you have both of those, they both hold their speed really well. When you get into aero claims, a lot of that has to come down to actual data and go into wind tunnels and do some testing and stuff like that. It's also hard to find that testing. What I have seen is like Cycling News, they did their Superbike 11 Superbike shootout. Trek actually came in second. It was 0.1 of a watt behind the tarmac, and that was ahead of the Cervelo S5. They had the Scott foil and stuff like that, and that was with the rider. When you have the bike just by itself, the all-rounders do fall a little bit behind those Aero, all-out Aero bikes. But with the rider, it seems that the gap is very small, marginal at best, and you get all the benefits of a lightweight frame. It's stiff. It does everything else. You can use it everywhere, and you're just as fast as the all out and out Aero bikes. So,
Are there any dislikes or drawbacks to this bike?
from an overall standpoint, there's a couple things I can point out. So one, I do a lot of my own maintenance at home. I want to support the bike shops, but also I try to do as much as I can on my own. Trust the work, and you know everything's there, and saves you some money. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But I'm not a huge fan of proprietary type stuff. So one-piece cockpits, a lot of times they're proprietary to certain bikes, or seat posts in this example here. You can only get that through Trek. Fortunately, in this case here, as far as the design with the saddle mount and the angle adjustment is great. They have a short and a long version of it. So when you do a frame up build, or if you get a Trek Madone from a store, it's going to come with one of those, and you'll either have to buy the other one, or hopefully the Trek can work with you and actually swap that out for you.
You're talking the actual.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's got a flip chip design in the seat post that you can flip it to give you a little extra leeway, and it's got a small window in the back, and that's where the actual Allen key to cinch it down. That's one thing I would like to see different, is extend that window a little bit and maybe make the flip chip just a little bit bigger. Try to have one seat post design that kind of fits for all the frame sizes. So that would be one thing I would like to see change there. Another, I wouldn't necessarily call it a drawback, but it's something that's different and it can trip people up, is the sizing on the new Madones and Treks just in general. So they've kind of gone away from the typical numerical sizing chart where you have your 56, your 58, 61s, and they've gone to t-shirt sizing essentially. So you have a small, medium, large, extra large. So this one here is a large, and that kind of, fortunately for me, that lines up pretty well with the 58, which is exactly what I need. But depending on what your fit is, sometimes you kind of fall in between those ranges a little bit. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on if you're interested in the bike, and make sure you test ride it before you put any cash down, just to make sure it's exactly what you need.
So for the two piece for you, you had mentioned fit and maintenance work. Do you feel like you're still dialing in your fit, or is that you want to change it if you have that option? Or
so I definitely want to have that option. I usually try to keep my bikes for a pretty long time. That TCR you had mentioned previously, I had that bike for 15 years or more. My Giant Contend, I've 15,000 miles or so on it. I tend to keep my bikes for a decent ownership. So your fit's going to change each year, depending on if you're keeping up with stretching, kind of rolling out, depending on what your performance goals are. If you're continually working towards that, a lot of times your fit will get aggressive as time goes, but also as you get older, kind of lose some of that flexibility. So I wanted to make sure I could dial this in with whatever my goals were, or where I was in life at that point. This here, I might try to stretch out the front just a little bit, to kind of see how that goes. So I've been working on my flexibility every night, trying to make sure I can get these hamstrings and glutes and everything, my lower back, a little bit more limber so I can get that aero position and try to get a little bit faster. But that's the main reason. And then also, by going with the two-piece design here, you're not locked in. So with the Trek Madone SLR, a lot of times they come with, it's a Trek's proprietary top headset, and it's actually at a slant. So when you have a typical stem, those are flat, it would actually leave a gap, and you can't actually use any other stem that you want. So you have to run that one if you want to use basically any stem out there. But if you go with the full integrated, you're locked into Trek's ecosystem, and their limited options. So those are the main reasons for going for that one there.
Got a race bike that you think deserves the spotlight? Click on the link in the description and we might be able to feature your ride on the channel.
Make sure to like and subscribe.